Type Overwatch versus Paladins in the title box. Insert this champion equals this hero meme. And you've got yourself a view-generating, shitposting miracle. Everyone seems to want a slice of the Overwatch vs Paladins pie, and people keep dipping into it. I'd actually sworn off covering these Overwatch vs Paladins videos, as most of them is low effort, the same sort of thing, and they just keep coming. But this time round, it's personal. Someone contacted me on Discord to tell me that another channel had used my gameplay in their video. So I went and clicked on and had a look, and lo and behold, it was Overwatch vs Paladins, which one is better? And the offender was the Leaderboard this time, and I'll cover them a little bit later. This video is interesting too, because it's not the usual low effort, oh my god, Overwatch copy, this is McCree, etc. It actually presents itself as an in-depth analysis of the games, and under the guise of open-mindedness. It does have a few copy memes here and there, and it does have emojis in its title. But as it is personal, I thought I'd break this one down. Because once you skim the surface of this video, the lower effort aspect is still there. Maybe it's even worse because it is presenting itself as something serious and some form of in-depth commentary. I'd like to say this is no witch hunt. There's no beef from me on a personal level. I'd also like to say that I like both games. I think they're both great. And honestly, for me, it comes down to time. And not everybody is able to turn back time and use recall like Tracer, so often it's coming down to your own personal preferences on the two games and what they both offer, and which one personally calls to you. I occasionally play Overwatch casually and play Paladins a bit more seriously. This isn't a knee-jerk defense of Paladins either. I'm pretty quick to the mark to call out Paladins whenever the developers do something I'm not happy with, but the video itself has got pretty high up on the video rankings right now. It's got 140,000 views, and obviously is being viewed by a part of their 500,000 following. This Leaderboard seem to have a team working on their channel as well, so it's not just a single YouTuber making a rash video. So who are the Leaderboard in a little bit more detail? Well, they're an offshoot of Frederator and do sort of gaming facts sort of videos and other stuff like that. I was actually shocked when I saw the avatar of the channel. I'm actually a massive fan of a lot of their animations, like Adventure Time, Bravest Warriors, and Castlevania, which has just come out now, is okay. So it was a bit eyebrow stroking that this channel with a team of people working on videos needed to use my footage, and now it's only about 30 seconds in total of the video, the footage that was used, and it's of Zin in the Onslaught mode. As it is gameplay, it's in a bit of a grey area. Obviously lots of channels use material as reaction videos, and people use trailers and cinematics and things like that to add to their video or to talk about, and that's totally fine as well. I do however think it's not exactly courteous not to mention that you've used somebody else's footage. To be honest, the bottom line is the usage of my footage isn't really the issue here. What it does is it highlights the fact that they just haven't really put much effort into this video. The reason they used my footage was to show the Onslaught mode. Now, Onslaught matches last from 5 to 10 minutes. They literally capped at that 10-minute mark, so you can't go further than that. So they're very short matches. So not to go into a game and get your own footage just highlights the lack of effort to actually try out the game. And it doesn't stop there. So what the Leaderboard guy said was, how is it fair to compare a game you have played hundreds of hours for versus a game you only have little time in? And he said explicitly he'd played 96 minutes of Paladins. However, doing my own research, going to Paladins Guru, a stat site that goes off the API, it puts him at level 4. Now, the tutorial gets you to level 2.5, and in the footage, from what I could see, only 2 matches of his own gameplay were used, but there was highlighted the fact that they played Maeve. So they've at least played 3 games, but the likelihood is to get to level 4, you probably have played between 4 and 5 games. But it could have been the 3 as well, depending on how well he played in that match. I actually last criticised a YouTuber called Mess Yourself for making a full video of Paladins versus Overwatch and basically calling Paladins a copy, and he didn't actually play a game. He didn't even play a bot game, he just completed the tutorial. So there is some improvement there. The only thing is the Leaderboard guy pretty much said along the lines, don't worry, I've done my research. But to be honest, a lot of the alleged research seems, at least, to have only been maybe looking at the Wikipedia for the game, maybe having a quick scroll in the subreddit, they showed that, but I don't know whether they actually read any of the threads, and flicking through the in-game menus and maybe reading through a few of those. This is where I think everything really kicks in and illuminates. A lot of focus at the moment is being spotlighted on games media, like IGN for example, for racing to quick reviews and hardly playing a game or not playing it properly. And it's a bit similar here. They've eyed up a popular topic, dived into it and produced content without actually doing the most important field work, playing the game itself, or at least playing enough of it. How much time do you need to spend on a game to understand it is debatable, and obviously you have only so much time to do that. There's probably no golden number. I'd probably say for single player games a full run through, but for multiplayer games it is a bit more up in the air. But the bottom line is probably more than 3 to 5 bot games, and not even playing the player versus player element. The thing is, the whole video seems to focus on the superficial stuff on the surface of Paladins versus Overwatch. The graphics, cosmetics, community, basically the easy stuff that they don't have to actually play the game for. It really fails to even get a hint of the gameplay differences between Paladins and Overwatch. They never mention items, which are so integral to how the game works, and I'll come back on that, and they hardly mention card loadouts, which are really important too. They only talk about card loadouts in the context that they are hard to grind, or at least they were touched on the fact that there is a grind and there's some RNG elements, and the card system, which is a valid point, but they never come back to it. And he actually says at one point, he's actually talking about something else, but he basically says, this is a hero shooter, hi-rez, not a MOBA. And I think that's fundamentally missing the point of Paladins, and the misunderstanding of the difference between Paladins and Overwatch. A lot of Paladins gameplay differs because the game progresses during the match and people get up items, and that mixes things up. And people's loadouts can sort of counter each other, and some counterplay and pickups and things like that. But fundamentally, he missed all of that part. And didn't really talk about like the maps being larger, the way movement works in Paladins versus Overwatch, because there's more movement in Paladins, more vertical movement. In Overwatch, everything is a bit more static, although Doomfist is definitely a bit more mobile this patch in Overwatch. There are actually several things that they said that were completely false. So they said there's a game mode where you can remount on your horse. That's just untrue. Basically, you used to be able to remount in closed beta, and it was a feature that was removed. It was actually pretty clunky, to be honest, and the meta now is sort of knocking people off their horses and stopping them from getting to the point. That was another thing they missed about the momentum of the game. Overwatch relies on forward spawns and moving from those, and in Paladins it's more about the movement in the mounts, so you can set up a line of defense. It's a bit different there. But they also had some footage of Androxus in closed beta or open beta because they had a yellow health bar. It wasn't a lot of footage, and I don't know where they ripped it from, but maybe they'd done some bad research watching some very old Paladins videos. Another thing they said was there's a patch a week in Paladins, which would be rather insane, but that just isn't true. There's a patch every 2 weeks, with the patch preview being on the Friday and then they're missing one Friday. Basically, they release a patch every 2 weeks on Wednesday pretty much, on the PC at least. Maybe they got confused because there's console releases that are separate to the PC releases, but I'm really unsure there. So in the end, they conclude that Overwatch is better than Paladins, and they don't frame it in a personal way, but it is bitter to swallow, as you know, they haven't really played the game they're reviewing, and they never really touch on any of the core gameplay properties of the different games. And the maddening thing is, if you look in the credits, there's 4 people involved in the production and scripting of this video. The whole team were there like, well, we didn't really play the game, but we're ready to review it. That's totally fine. That's a-okay. Like, they all signed off on that. Perhaps it's just the culture in making videos that way. Maybe there's more of a focus on getting something out in a time frame, so maybe they didn't have the time to play the game or actually do something that is in depth. I guess the most frustrating thing about Paladins versus Overwatch and this whole sort of meme that's going on is people not being transparent about how much they play the game and making shallow references to similarities and not really giving the game a chance. To be fair, they did set the tone at the start of the video saying that they thought Overwatch was better than Paladins, and a lot of it isn't necessarily completely negative. But what they do is they put both games on the same track as if they're objectively almost the same game, so in the back of their minds they're thinking it's a copy and comparing them in that way, and completely missing the differences that separate them and make them actually different games. I think when that happens, you can just say one is better than the other without having the reality that they're not the same game, so you're not making the same decision of, I want to play Paladins versus I want to play Overwatch, because they're both an option. You can play both. That's, I guess, what I was making a point of at the start. And I guess this feeds into really feelings of the wider gaming media that they just aren't being honest, or they're just under pressure to put stuff out that doesn't have any substance, and are focusing literally on the style of games rather than the substance. Anyway, I know that was pretty ranty, but it did hit close to home. They took my footage, and when I watched the video I was like, well, this is a bit misleading, and obviously the video itself was quite frustrating to watch. Anyway, what does everybody else think? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. I do hope that people aren't like Overwatch versus Paladins in the comment section, although I know it'll probably happen. And also, again, don't witch hunt, don't go after the people This isn't what this is about. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more of my content, and I'll see you all next time. Joshino.